welcome back to another episode of SSB Podcast. My name's Daniel. I'm your host. I have to my left here Elijah, who is frozen.
Hi guys, how are you doing today?
To his left, I have my co-host Jesse Guya.
He's not moving.
He's frozen, guys.
He's frozen.
You gonna speak to him?
Yes, I am. I'm going to speak something, and my name is Jesse Guya. And
what's the proper spelling, Dan?
Hey, you just say.
Hey, no.
When you hear it that way, you know what the proper spelling is.
No.
And guess what comment is
Let me put some clarification in there. Let me put some sprinkles on there. Okay, my name is Jesse. Okay, not IE. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. So if you want to annoy me, why don't you just put that in the chat? I am literally digging a hole for myself right now. I'm digging a hole for myself.
Yeah, it's always funny to hear Jesse go crazy.
But that's
over,
a perfect.
Hey, you just say it ruffles a little
do
feathers.
That's
so
a very traumatic.
If you can comment down the comments and say, "Hey, you just say,"
all caps.
Don't do this.
Greatly appreciate it.
Don't do this.
It would ruffle a lot.
I actually
of
told you to
Jesse's
do
feathers.
this. So
yeah, it gets him excited.
Excited?
Yeah, excited's the word.
What do you mean by that?
What you mean by that?
All right, let's get into the show, man. So we got something special here today. I think this was a coincidence or not, maybe. We all have jean jackets.
Hold on.
Right? Let's do a Spider-Man
why
real quick.
we just did that.
Yeah, so that's why we opened the show up with
If you were a little confused in the very beginning.
Right. I think
Now you
everyone's
understand.
seen the Spider-Man logo or the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah.
Right? So we all wore jean jackets today, and they have something special extra with the Say Isa shameless plug here.
Shameless plug, baby.
We have another shameless plug. We do that often on this episode.
Always.
So Say Isa is a company that Elijah's brother owns. It's a brand company.
Older brother. He's based in London. He's doing a huge rebrand, and trust me, the type of apparel that's gonna come out are fire emoji all over it.
I think
you're gonna love it, and it represents an amazing message.
Yeah, I think they intentionally chose to leave me out on the trend here.
You just forgot it. That's what the issue is. I'm exposing you right now.
It was not
I'm exposing
communicated. It was not.
So
communicated.
We didn't communicate it either, but we brought it
we knew
because
it.
we just knew.
It's all right. So, speaking of SSB and the three of us, let's talk about what we're going to discuss today, and that is the influence on music and thoughts and actions. I think this is an interesting topic.
It is.
It's up for discussion, and I think we'll provide a lot of different substance and perspectives. We all three come from three different cultures, right? And we talked about it on the beginning episodes. I am African American. My father originates from West Africa.
Which country? You gotta tell him.
Sierra Leone.
Represent.
Represent.
Leone.
Can you do the accent?
I cannot do the accent.
My brother, why can't you do?
I cannot do. I have not mastered that.
Do it?
But it wouldn't be funny if I did it. So that's my culture. Elijah, what's your culture?
Ukrainian. My parents are from Ukraine, and then myself, I was born in Latvia, which is Northeast Europe.
And Jesse.
I'm all over the place, man. My mother is from Israel. My dad's from Ukraine, and I'm from Springfield, Massachusetts, West Side Springfield, and now I live in Fort Myers.
Yeah. So the influence on music, on thoughts and actions, I think it brings a lot of different cultural values in a sense, but it also is going to be cool to discuss, our different preferences on music, and then how it's influenced our thoughts and actions, and then what it does as a society when it comes to our thoughts and actions. So I want to open up with the question for you to talk about, Elijah, the power of music on the human mind, right? Talk about what that is to you.
Man, for example, you can play a song right now. Within the first 2-3 seconds, people know exactly what it is. Yeah. That just shows you power.
Yeah.
If you're able to identify a song and artist within a couple of seconds, and you know the song, most people know lyric by lyric, that shows you some level of influence that's behind the music. Right. And so it's very, every culture through society had their different styles of music. Different variations, some were more customary, some were, depending on which part of the region and which part of the world, it was almost like you had to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think now, because we're living in the now, it has shifted into, specifically with social media, how it's influencing what people think on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Because music has power in every single industry or in every single like business venture. So for example, athletes, stereotyping but not, they have a certain type of music selection, maybe country, maybe whatever the case is for anyone. I think it's important to understand that there's different powers at hand.
Do you believe, Jesse, I want to ask you this question. Do you believe music is, the genre of music is indicative to the environment? Meaning that if I am an athlete, right, and I'm in the locker room or I'm in the weight room or I'm working out, right, do I have to listen to a certain culture of music, right? Is it indicative to the environment rather as opposed to me being to a cookout party or a wedding party, right? Like, is it indicative to the environment or is it just as is, the music culture?
No, I mean, honestly, I'll give you an example, okay? Because we're talking about, like, if you have to be an athlete, you know, you have to listen to this music. You have to listen to murder rap, okay? That's not necessarily the case. I've heard so many different people listen to so many different things. And I don't know if you've ever seen this happen before, if you guys watch UFC or not. But anytime there's, like, a fighter that's walking out, it's like, you know, you'd think that they'd come out, like, in Creed style, listening to, like, murder rap or something, and they're just, like, ready to freaking take somebody's head off. Or I've seen people come out with country music. I've heard people come out with, like, da 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 da, making my way downtown. Bro, like, the most random stuff ever, right? So it's like, honestly, it's based off of someone's preference. And I remember personally, like, a friend of mine used to not listen to, or he used to listen to a lot of rap, right? And it wasn't, like, good lyrics or anything like that. And so, like, he lifts. And then, like, he just decided to go on worship music one day. And he was like, I'm just going to try to work out with worship music. This dude, like, maxed out on bench, like, the day that he started listening to worship music. Weird. I don't know if that's my preference, but, like, who knows, man? That's kind of...
Right. And I think most importantly, like, music is a sound, right? And the influence of that sound, right, it is predicated on what ultimately our thoughts and our actions turn out to be. So that's why the human mind, that's why I asked you that question about the human mind and what that does. Spiritually, how are you led towards this music, right? And I've discovered for myself personally that when I listen to a lot of hardcore music, it influences my drive to be hardcore, right? So it might impact the way that I talk to people. Or when I get angry, right? What I say, what comes out of my mouth, what naturally... right, sparks from that anger. So I think
it impacts your emotional state, like through.
So the influence on the music and the thoughts and action is predicated on what type of music it is, and what that message to the music is, right? I think that's important to mention. Jesse, you spoke upon the music and how that kind of relates to the situation or the perspective of your mind. Talk about, like, the music and memory, and the connection between that. Like, how do you spoke about that a little bit.
Yeah. We've had this conversation, like, previously, like, off camera, obviously. And, like, it's kind of funny because we've kind of gone back and forth with, like, you know, our own perspectives on it. But, like, something that's crazy, man, I don't know what the exact, like, research is on it, but I know that, like, music has such an impact on people's memory to where I think, like, it helps people, like, bring back memories to where, like, they lost them. I don't know if it's, like, amnesia or something like that, like, they're trying to recover from memory loss. And the way that they, like, exercise that is by listening to music, and somehow their memory is brought back together. Like, it's crazy, like, what, like, how that can happen, and how, like, even in a medical sense, like, it literally helps your memory. And, like, me personally, like, I can definitely tell you that, like, a specific song, you know, you play a specific song and it takes me back to a certain moment. Like, freaking when I broke up with my ex. You know, it messed me up, and it's like freaking, you know, back then I played Marvin's Room. Like, it was just like that.
The power of music, though, the influence of it does take you back to certain moments where you can remember where you were at that time and how that moment felt. And that's why it could be viewed as something that is motivating or negatively influencing the mind, the action of certain things. Elijah, how has music influenced you in your personal journey of how you are influenced and how you take action?
It hasn't.
It hasn't.
None. Zero.
But like I
No
mean, even
impact
even
on it
like
whatsoever.
worship music,
yeah.
right?
I have an interesting taste, if you
Yeah.
call it a taste. So I'm not big on music. Like I know a lot of different artists. I know a lot of different, like I've heard them throughout. But me typing in certain songs or even a playlist, a lot of times I either drive. When I drive, I make a bunch of phone calls or I listen to a podcast. Occasionally, if I'm in the mood, I'll play a song or two. But
This
I like-
man's a robot.
Am
You're a robot.
I
Yeah.
am a robot. But I will say though, a genre that I have listened to more than anything is probably gospel.
Okay.
So most people are like, man, how? Trust me,
So are you able to? So in working out, are you able to listen to gospel? Have you gotten comfortable with the environment? Like it doesn't so much matter.
I like the sound. I like the sound of my own mind.
Okay.
When I work
yeah.
out.
So
That's
again, like
crazy.
music
I
is
can't listen to my thoughts, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in a sense though, it's therapeutic though for some. So
No, it is.
I would say for some people, music is very much so therapeutic, a way of healing, the way of focusing. And then for some people, it's a way of getting their motivation up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Exciting them, getting them riled up. So I also think that the genre of music is predicated on that though, right? So like, do you want to listen to soft tone music,
Yeah.
right? If you're trying to work out,
Yeah.
or
You
do you want to
can.
be more up paced?
Dude, there's-
Right? It just depends on
Right.
who you are, what the person
Like me,
likes. But it certainly does have power from the standpoint of like the influence of what you need to get done and the message behind it. I think it ultimately does influence like how you
Yeah.
think and what you say, right?
There's, what's interesting? There's a genre basically, or some type of music for every emotion.
Yeah.
For every emotion.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you're feeling, you can literally go to a specific song. If you're feeling happy, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling emotional,
Yeah.
if you're feeling like you want to get pumped up, like there's a song for everything,
That's
Yeah.
true.
And it's crazy because like when we grow up with music, oftentimes we push ourselves to go to that to feel something even more.
Yeah.
And it's like not necessarily the most healthy thing. Like, yes, it's good to feel your emotions, but like, bro,
Yeah.
I remember honestly a good, again, example is like breaking up with your ex, or like you had
Right.
something with a girl
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
next thing you know, like
That's a
it's
huge
off.
point though.
And
Yeah.
like you go back to a certain song and you're like, dang, like I
Yeah.
want to sit in my emotions, but that's not, I don't know if
Right.
that's necessarily a healthy thing.
It's not. Do you have anything?
I don't. So again, for me, it's again different perspectives. That's what I love about SSB and
Yeah.
what we represent is that we're not just thinking the exactly same way. Like I know we're dressed the same with the jean jacket,
Spider-Man.
but our mindset and even our experience is different. And like when I work out, a lot of times I don't play anything. Like I just to me, I have for me again. I know I'm a robot, but I just get it done and make it happen. Or in other situations, because I probably didn't grow up with music. And I
Yeah,
think if
that's
you
true.
like, for example, Jesse's, he doesn't say it, but he's in a way a musician. Like his taste, his hearing. He used to play saxophone.
you don't gotta expose me like that.
I'm about
I didn't
to
want
now.
You
them
were
to
the
know
only
that.
one who took a music class, though, right?
I did
Out of
percussion.
us.
I did percussion.
Oh no, actually, yeah, you did take percussion.
That's why they call me
I
DJ
played
D-Less.
saxophone for 6 years, since we're already exposing myself.
Yeah.
I played it for 6 years.
That's a
and
skill,
after I haven't played it for 6 years. So like
He
literally
retired quick.
Yeah, I retired pretty quickly there. Like I literally just played it just for being in high school. But I wish I could play other stuff,
Right.
obviously, because I love music, man. And music does bring people
yeah,
like
for sure.
And actually, this is kind of a thing that I do want to talk about is like music when it comes to worship, because there's so much out there on
Yeah.
social media and other places where people are now like revolting against like worship music because it enacts like a specific emotion, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, like it's almost like manipulation that these
Yeah.
churches and these people are doing this. And it's like, not necessarily, because like every music has the possibility to do
Right.
that. No
Absolutely.
matter if you wanted to play music with drums, if you wanted to play music with no guitar or just a piano or whatever it is,
Yeah.
there is emotion that always comes from that. And emotion is from God. God
Right.
created our emotions.
And, and I think that there's one sound, like I heard somebody say this, like there's a kingdom sound, right? Like, and wherever you find like a move of God, like, or a miracle, like it's always associated with the sound,
Yeah.
right? So like whether that's the pastor preaching the word, the message, right, or there's music playing, like people are worshiping, yelling from the top of their lungs.
Yeah.
There's a sound being in tune with that spiritual moment, that
Yeah.
spiritual connection. So I think that music is important from that standpoint of worship. Like you need a sound to worship and praise and ultimately free yourself from your flesh, right? And that can be done through the message of the pastor. That can be done through the message of us disclosing our thoughts, our insight on our journey, or through music.
Yeah.
So I think that music is important from a worship standpoint.
Yeah.
There's music found all throughout Scripture.
Oh,
All throughout.
absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
throughout.
Absolutely.
Right.
Instead of worshiping God, people worship music.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
They
that that's
idolize.
the biggest encompassing purpose of the influence of actions and
Yes.
thoughts. It is that the message that the music is sending, how are you taking that in?
The message, bro.
It's the message behind it. And if you're just listening to a song because you enjoy the instrumental, right? Right. That's not a good enough purposeful action. And if you're just listening to it for the purpose of the instrumental, then you're not understanding the message, but the message can still perpetrate and affect and impact how
Yeah.
you think and how you act.
Well,
So I think it's
let's split-
important to be careful with that.
Let's talk about the message and the messenger.
Got you.
I think a lot of times
Yeah.
people like, the message, which is the song itself, again, I'm not musically inclined, and then you have the messenger who is performing this.
Yeah.
So what if you have a case where the message is great, but the messenger is,
So somebody,
That's good.
Somebody
Yeah.
once, I had this conversation with somebody specific, but like they were saying that there's spirits behind music, right?
okay.
So I'm not going to say I sway to one side or the other, but I think that there is some validity towards the fact that like it's not just the song itself. It could be the messenger, because there's spirits behind that. Like what is the emotion? What is it driving? And again, I do think that the message is the biggest part for me. That's what I'm seeing. But like the spirits behind music is like, I don't know. I need to read into that a little bit more, but
Yeah, I think there's a responsibility for the creators
Yeah.
to perpetrate a message that is clear and understanding for the listeners.
Yeah.
But there's also a responsibility for the listeners to understand what that message is. I can't just like a song because I like the artist, right? I have to understand what that artist's message is and if it's purposeful to who I am as a person. Does it drive me? Does it motivate me? Does it inspire me to be a better person, right? Or am I listening to this creator because I'm a fan of who they are, right? But their message behind their music I'm not a fan of, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important to understand. Like, so you have to be a listener of the purpose and the message, not the creator,
Yeah.
right? And as a creator, it's a responsibility for you to portray a message that is relation to who you are so that the listeners can follow you and be genuinely supporters of what your message is and not who you are as a person.
yeah.
You know, but it all has influence. It all has influence on you, how you think, how you act, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
I think so. Let's just go back to the music part of like it having a message and then the messenger, right? If you like the message, if you like the song, most of the time you're going to be like, I like the artist. Let me look her or him up.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing a whole lot of other
Different,
things
yeah.
that are like, whoa,
Yeah,
okay,
not
but it
expect-
causes you to stumble.
Right.
It causes you to fall into certain things, and it's like,
Right.
it's all because like there is a value to not just the message, but the messenger itself, because like
Right.
you're portraying something not just by one song. Most of the time nowadays, because of internet, because of where we are at, you can look up anything in 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think there's also a value of being related or having relation to the message.
Yeah,
Like if I'm an individual who is going through a rough time in my life and I hear someone's story, that creator is presenting a topic or a song to me that I could reconcile with, right? That I can
Yeah.
find comfort in, I can find inspiration in, right? That draws people as well, right? But you also have to understand who that person is,
Yeah.
right? What
That's
does he
so key.
stand for, right? Who is he as an individual, right? And be careful how that one song of that creator can influence your thoughts and actions, right? That's important to realize, you know?
Dude, a good example here. Everybody knows Kanye.
Yeah. I didn't want to
Everybody
name
knows
drop.
Kanye.
Yeah, but he-
Well, let's
there we go.
just
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah,
let's talk about it. All right, let's
talk
talk
about
about it.
it.
Okay.
Yay.
It was amazing, and this is coming from my perspective and a lot of other people's perspectives. I'm sure you guys can share this. Is when he was saved and I heard his music the very first time. That one like six. I don't know if it was like 6-song like EP that came out with like the gospel thing. Like there were some songs where I was like, bro, I feel the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Like it's awesome. And like I actually saw somewhat of a change, and it was amazing because he was drawing people to Christ, right? Like there were people like his fans that were being drawn to Christ because of what he was doing. 2 years later, like he falls down the pit. One, because he didn't really have like a good people, good community around him. And there's probably so many other things that we could definitely delve into. Like he went from like loving the Lord to like
loving something.
Bro, just like.
And I think that's why we can all value the connection and relating to them, because like that's an up and down journey that Kanye is going through. But we also have to understand that these creators of music are human. And that if we idolize them, right, because they're creators and they're people that we enjoy listening to, then their actions, that wherever they're saying, whatever they're doing in music videos, right, it's ultimately influencing how we think. Yeah, and ultimately it rubs off onto how we act as well. Yeah,
and the point I was trying to drive there is that when Kanye left, a lot of other people left too. So like they continue to follow the messenger.
So, right.
And so like people can do that, man. Like there's so many pop artists where it's like you talk about God because it's like the newest thing. You know, it's like something that's like you're trying to draw a different crowd, and then they go back into the world and boom, like they're drawing other people away from God because of music and because of the messenger.
How important is it though for creators to understand their platform, right? Their leverage. Like he just said, Kanye had a large fan base of supporters for Christ. Once he left it, they left too, right? So it's important to value your platform.
I think it's of utmost importance to understand how much power music has. Yeah. Because with that comes money, comes fame, comes notoriety, and so
power too,
and power, influence, and so when people see that, they got a taste of it. They're like, I want more. And so if you're not stable in your faith, I think one thing that we brought up these different examples and situations. Ultimately, if you're not rooted in Christ, if you're not rooted, then it doesn't matter the type of song that you listen to, that can influence you in a negative way. Regardless, even if the message is good and messenger is A-okay, it's important to not rely on something else. Yeah. And rely on the true music, which is God. He made music. He's the creator.
Yeah, and my personal opinion is you should never idolize anyone. The only person you should be idolizing is God. So I think
it's not even idolizing either. It's like that person is the person that you were meant to worship.
Right. That is the only that's the only thing that you should idolize. You know, if you get caught up in idolizing the creator, right? Like the only way you get a revelation of your spiritual growth is to idolize God, right? Whether it's under a sound, but to understand that the creators can also be a gateway to that revelation. Right, but understanding like the whole goal and intent and purpose is to idolize God, right? So I think that's important to understand and mention when it comes to the influence of music, because we can get caught up sometimes. We can get caught up in idolizing people who, relate to us or who have had fame and success, right? And then not understanding, right, like, these people aren't really, they're human, and then they're not really adding any value into our lives outside of our feelings and emotions, which is important, but it's important to keep the main thing when it comes to who you should really have inspiration and idolization in. Yeah. And that's God.
And we got to give credit to the creator of music, which is God.
Absolutely.
I think people, this comes not just with music, any type of gift that you have. How selfish are we? To be talented and gifted and have success and never one time acknowledge the very essence of who gave that to you. Yeah. And so I think in music, the same thing is because it's very self-seeking. People just want to, eyes on me, cameras on me, money, in my pocket, opposed to, hey, I know I'm gifted musically, but ultimately I'm just trying to worship God. So I think worshiping God should be the ultimate goal. And there's different ways that avenues and genres that you can do that. But like you said, understanding there's so much power behind music.
Yeah.
Good. You mentioned idolize, and you kept saying idolize God. I never heard anybody ever say that before when it came to God. But when you look at like the definition of it, it means to revere and to admire and to treasure, to adore, to respect, and to like an excessive degree.
And the reason why I use the word idolize, because how many people do you hear grow up and they're influenced by a certain culture, certain athlete, an artist, and they say that was my idol, right? Like I had an idol growing up, right? And he was LeBron James, or someone that is an artist. He was Kanye West, right? Like, and this is my personal opinion, but like you shouldn't idolize those people, right? You can be inspired by their journey and their story, right? But the true idolization is God.
Yeah.
And the Bible talks about it. You shall have no other idols.
No other gods. No other gods. No other idols.
That's a form of worship.
Yeah.
It is. It is
right. And if we're worshiping other humans, right? Like, you know, so that's important.
Right.
So there is a responsibility. There's a responsibility for the creators who are producing content. And there's also a responsibility for the listeners who are listening to content to understand that there is an importance of music and a sound, but there's also that understanding that this influences your thoughts and actions. So I have to be selective with what I choose to listen to.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that we have to do better as listeners, but we also have to understand that the creators have to do better as well. So this is a good topic.
Absolutely.
We're going to wrap it up. This is a great moment to comment, like, subscribe, and leave questions. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear feedback on ways that we can improve, on things you want to hear us discuss. I think that this is a good topic to get an understanding of how you listen to music and your purpose and intent for why you listen to music and how it influences you. And I look forward to hearing you guys' feedback on it. So that is another episode of SSB, and peace and love.
Hey,
Peace and love. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, man.